Okay, so today I want to talk about adventure. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. Where does adventure come from? I mean, like what's the earliest idea of adventure that you've ever had? Where does it come from? I mean, as a guy, as a young boy, I can remember all kinds of adventures. I mean, adventure feels like I was born out of the womb of adventure because I had an older brother, and I think all we did was play, imagine, fight dragons. We grew up in northern Houston, so the Renaissance Festival was always there. And so you get like a wooden sword and a shield, come home to your buddies, and you'd show them what you're made of. And there's probably some degree of violence there that didn't need to be there, but it was this sense of adventure and exploring the world and excitement and engagement. And it's like, well, where does that come from? And I got interested in that probably a couple of years ago, and I learned about all these different kinds of studies that have gone on at academic levels of studying adventure, and specifically Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and looking at life from the hero's journey. And what they kind of postulate or theorize is that, why is this hero's journey so important to us? Like, why do we feel like we need that? And the essence of it is that it's built into the very atoms of who we are. And adventure begins with, let's just call it the Big Bang. From the beginning of time, that these atoms have had to formulate into molecules, that have had to formulate into simple organisms, that have had to withstand, mass extinctions and comets and volcanoes and earthquakes and tidal waves, all while being here on Earth, and continue for billions and billions of years until you get little old me. So if I think of it that way, then it's more than survival. It's like the entire existence of our being here is a hero's journey. And it's something to be proud of, that, I've made it this far. Here I am. And all the little atoms and all the little molecules that make me up, and the journey that they've been on to become me. It's a daunting idea. It's like, it's a really big idea. It's really hard to grasp that. Easy to say it, hard to grasp it. Don't think I understand it. So, when I look back at that little boy that's out there running around with a wooden stick, pretending he's some knight saving the world, I think about that. Now I think about that in my older years, and I recognize that, it's something special to be alive. It's no joke being here and making the best of it that I can. And I could certainly tell you, looking back at making this my first film, Love Evolved, that I had lost that along the way. I had lost this sense of adventure. Even though I was in medicine, and my God, all the things that I saw in medicine. I mean, medicine itself, I thought would be this, grand adventure. And it is a constant adventure, just not in the way that I thought it was going to be. I thought saving lives was going to be heroic, and it was going to be that same, I guess it was that same little boy that was in there wielding that wooden sword. I thought he would be the one in there, just full of adventure and perfectly content inside of a hospital and all of the wildness that goes on in there. But what I found was what I always call million-mile-an-hour monotony, where you have a life that's moving so quick and so fast, and yet you get so used to it. And it's like, okay, I know my routine. I'm in my routine. I'm doing my thing. And all the bureaucracy that comes with medicine, all that kind of stuff. I got used to it. And I got to a point where I felt like a cog on a wheel. I mean, I felt like, pick your Pink Floyd song. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe my experience. Like, is this all there is to life? There's got to be something more. There's got to be something out there. That's what I kept thinking to myself. And so I tried. I went out there and I said, where's the adventure to life as an adult? And, you see a lot of stuff on social media now saying, you need to get your kids prepared for adult life by giving them lots of chores, making sure that they're doing chores when they're young so that they grow up and they're used to it. And I think back, and my brother and I couldn't mow the lawn to save our lives. And my dad tried, couldn't get us to mow the lawn. Was, sideways lawn. Let's not even talk about, using the weed whacker. That wasn't going to happen. So I don't know, so they tried to get us to do these things, to be adjusted as adults, but come on, I got to adjust to this. Like there's more to life than this. So in the movie, I got to this point where I got really low about it. And that started part of the journey. But something that I don't talk about in the film is this million-mile-an-hour monotony. You can only have one or two things that pushes the film forward. At least in a podcast, we get to talk about so much more. But this million-mile-an-hour monotony was this joy killer in my life. And I really wanted to overcome that. And, my initial path was, okay, I'm just going to quit medicine. And then I got into these ideas of service and being a vessel of high powers work and what that can feel like. And I said, okay, maybe I don't have to leave medicine, but where is the adventure? So I started with travel. And, and a lot of times I speak to a lot of my friends about this. Travel doesn't have to be the route for everybody, but I was single at the time. I had nobody around. And so I took these opportunities to travel and use something I'm passionate about within that travel experience. And that was really cool. For me, it was film. So I got a camera, went and took some classes, started reaching out to interesting people that I wanted to learn from. So like Sarah Lazar, Sarah Lazar is a neuroscientist, and she studies meditation and neuroplasticity. And so I started looking at her academic literature. Fascinating, by the way. Fascinating. But she was the first one that I reached out to. And I tell you, it was like this perspective of the guy that asks like the overly qualified woman, the out of the league woman on a date, and then they say yes, and he just freezes. It's kind of an analogy. I wasn't asking her on a date or anything, but it's kind of an analogy to that, because I sent this email out. Hi, Dr. Lazar. My name's Steven. I'm a young filmmaker. I'd like to come and interview you for a documentary I'm making. And in like 2 minutes, she responds back, sure, when would you like to come? And I just froze. I'm like, oh my God, I think I have to commit now. So it took me like 3 or 4 days to respond back. And finally, I worked up the courage to think, am I really going to do this? Like, am I really going to get out of my comfort zone and go film a top neuroscientist in a subject that I really know nothing about? Am I really going to do this? Yeah, I did it. So I reached back out and then it's like, oh my God, well, now I got to get a team. I don't know how to actually film anything. And so a buddy of mine, Jeremy Nelson, connected me with Matt Koshmerl, who was teaching at Austin School of Film. And we got like the Three Musketeers, this like ultimate motley crew. And we went up to Boston to Harvard and interviewed her. And just that process of, like connecting with my idols or connecting with people that I admire, that I think are incredible, and finding a way to, honestly have an inner exchange with them. Mine is through storytelling. Man, there was fulfillment in that. And bringing a group together, the Three Musketeers, Jeremy, Matt, and I, and going out into the world, there was my adventure. And I found it. I found it right in that moment. And that was 2017. So I have held on to that. One of the most cherished memories of my life is to feel like I broke free, to feel like I overcame that cog in the wheel feeling, knowing that my life could be something more than that, or that I could express the gifts that I felt called to express. Though at that time, I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I just was picking up something I loved and going with it and going out to explore the world. And that was the adventure. And I can't encourage it enough. Like, get out there, go live your adventure. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be like mine at all. I hope it's not. I hope it's something totally unique. And that's what I want for people, is that they do live their adventures and they do get to experience the world, because there is something about going out and just that piece about getting out of your comfort zone, even so slightly, feels so invigorating, feels so alive. And then what? And then you come back home, right? Come back home to your own little world. Is it the same world? Has it changed? One of the things in Joseph Campbell's A Hero's Journey is that you bring back something. You bring something back to your community. And what's interesting for me is that I feel like I brought my community with me. And in that path, we all came together and we all got to have an experience. And funny enough, I actually brought my dad and then later in other trips, I brought my mom. And I did that because, for me, time is very, very limited. Like I don't have a lot of time to just, I'll take one trip for myself and then and family's always been really important for me. So I found a way to like fuse these, family, exploring new friendships, traveling all together within my storytelling. And it just added for me this other layer of fulfillment in it. It felt so good to just be with my family, show off a little bit like, hey, we're out here with some cool cameras. No, that's a bit nerdy, I know. But just to have them there, I mean, just to create a memory with them. That's what I was doing. And then you start talking about the people that you meet along these journeys. I mean, for me, I think the greatest, most powerful thing is to go to a location that I really know nothing about and explore it from some kind of beginner's mind perspective. I don't know. And by not knowing, I feel like I get the most unique perspective of places, especially when I'm going to meet someone new. One remarkable one was Dan Horowitz. I went to him as an expert because he wrote this book, Happier, with a question mark, looking at the cultural movement of positive psychology, really from a perspective of consumerism. Thought I was going there to just talk to an expert, and instead I got like sideswiped by this witty character of a man with knowledge from all over the world and, a touch of silliness, very playful, like having a good time, and then at times very serious. And he really became a mentor in a lot of ways for what I would share in Love Evolve, because a lot of my perspectives were so wrong, or I had a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of a lot of the studies that I was looking at. Something, things like genetics, like, you're committed to your genetics for the rest of your life, and that your genetics are going to determine how you respond to the world. And I started to actually put that into our film Love Evolve, especially from my perspective, because I felt like, my dad dealt with depression. Now I'm dealing with depression. I'm dealing with anxiety. Oh, it's my genetics. It's my family lineage. We're doomed. We might as well just accept it, accept our fate and move on. And I put that in the film, and I was sharing that with Dan, and he said, you can't put that in a film. How can you possibly commit people to a doomed life if you share that? And what he explained to me was his perspective was life is so complex. You never know all of the factors that will play into one's life's outcome and, your level of happiness. And, it kind of plays into that idea of is there free will or is there not? And which we're not going to get into on this podcast. There'll be another one. But I got to go somewhere, meet somebody completely new, because I reached out to him about his book, and I just went to go talk to him and learn some, just incredibly valuable pieces of information, not only for myself, but things that I could share with others. I have another friend. Her name is Lori Cash Richards, and she just went with us to Italy, and she was talking about, she had a similar experience where she decided she wanted to go and interview Coleman Barks. And for those of you that don't know, Coleman Barks wrote a lot of the popularizing renditions of Rumi, and controversial because a lot of the translations aren't exact, and he kind of romanticized a lot of what Rumi was talking about. But, a lot of the quotes that come from him, such as out beyond the ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a feel. I'll meet you there. I mean, okay, I'll meet you there. So it's quotes like that come from Coleman Barks that are these Rumi inspired pieces. But my point is that she went and she met, an idol. She met someone that she really looked up to, and she was explaining to me a similar sensation that she had this deep sense of a higher purpose. I'll have to bring Lori on the podcast because I need to actually let her share that story. But this is this idea that you feel called to there's something that you're seeking out there. There's something that you want to explore. And then the mentor arrives. And that mentor can be a very deliberate thing. You can create the mentor, or you start really getting into your work and doing what you love, and you start building community around that. The mentor will often arise on their own. And that's something where you just have to trust in that. But those mentors can be, these wonderful guides that can get you to those aha moments in your own personal life or whatever you're dealing with or whatever you're going through. And that's what I love about this kind of experiential learning model of getting out in the world and getting into your adventure, figuring out what it is that you love and making sure that it's expressed. And then you get out there and you do it and you let go of any kind of idea of how it's going to go down. Because all of the ideas that I've ever had in my head, how they get expressed out in the world, for me, similar, but not quite the same. It's always a little bit off to me. But oftentimes, when it really comes to fruition, that these hero journeys that we go on, I just like the cherry on top of life. They're just so important, so important. So my hope is that for anybody watching this, is that it doesn't have to be some monumentous eat, pray, love level kind of exploration of the world, but even micro adventures, even a little adventure, doing it once a day, doing it once a week, weekend warriors, whenever you can. It just adds that richness to the human experience. Thank you for joining us on the L36 podcast, where the global exploration of cultural insights and stories of people making a difference big and small becomes the shift in perspective that helps us grow. If this conversation touched something deep within you, we'd be grateful if you'd subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might benefit. These dialogues are just the start. To dive deeper into today's insights or explore the rich landscape of wisdom, community, and transformative events we offer, visit us at l36.io. Join our global community of adventurers, storytellers, and change makers dedicated to personal and cultural growth. Until next time, keep exploring, and we'll see you soon on the L36 podcast.